12 months ago, I finally did a thing that I'd been thinking about for years. I pressed record on my very first YouTube video. Since that first video went live, I made a commitment to stay as consistent as possible for as long as I could, and I managed to post 2 videos per week for the better part of a year. Now, I wish I could tell you that it's been nothing but a whirlwind of growth and fulfillment, but it hasn't. And while some videos performed well, most did not. And after a year, I'm still learning how to handle that. I've been through phases of obsessing over the YouTube analytics and consuming endless YouTube growth content, trying to crack the elusive YouTube algorithm. But my only real insight after 12 months and over 100 videos is that the only way to grow on YouTube is to make better content. But you already know that. From the outside looking in, you'll see my subscribers and think that I've done something right in order to be here. And if I have, I'm not exactly sure what that is. You see, the thing about growing on YouTube is that it's often very messy and unplanned, riddled with frustration and doubt, only to be temporarily alleviated by rapid, sporadic growth. Nonetheless, over the last 12 months, I have fumbled my way into building a small but growing business around my YouTube channel. I've joined the YouTube Partner Program, and I'm now managing a community of like-minded midlife content creators. But despite all of this, in many other ways, it still feels like my first day at school. This is my 1-year time capsule, what I've learned trying to do YouTube full-time, and a reflection on how YouTube has changed my life in less than a year. I've always admired YouTubers, their creativity, their courage, and the value that they freely give to the world. This platform is actually really magical when you think about it. Never before has humanity been able to connect like this, but I've always been the quiet one, reserved, never seeking the spotlight. In school, I rarely raised my hand, and like many of you, I just assumed that YouTube would forever be this thing that I watched, not something that I did. But then something shifted. Sitting in front of my computer, where I spent far more time than is healthy at 44 years old and approaching almost 20 years in corporate America, I realized I was living the same day over and over again, and I was running out of time. When I got more serious about starting on YouTube, I took a camera confidence boot camp. The curriculum was great, but the real lesson came from a throwaway comment by a 65-year-old classmate. I watched one of his videos and I asked him how he was so natural on camera, and he responded to me saying, "Mate, I'm a 65-year-old bloke. I don't have any more time to care about what other people think. So just be who you are." And that comment really stuck with me, along with watching other inspirational videos from Alexa Saranoia and Rob the Maritimer. That comment helped get me over the hump to say F it and just get going with YouTube. I wasn't vocal about starting. I told people, but I kept my expectations low. After all, very few people ever succeed on YouTube, and from the outside perspective, it probably seems like an awful waste of time. I'm not a particularly interesting person. I don't have that quintessential YouTube energy, charisma, or playfulness, but I had convinced myself of one thing, that I was a halfway decent teacher, and if I could capitalize on that one skill, then I might have a shot. But there was only one problem. I didn't know anything about the subject that I'd be teaching. So what did I devote my channel to? Well, how to start and grow on YouTube. The irony was not lost on me. Here I was about to make my very first video about making your very first video. And my very first video sucked. No, I mean it, like quite literally, I put "it sucked" in the thumbnail. It was my attempt at explaining what it's like to try and start and grow a YouTube channel when you have no idea what you're doing. I shot it on my iPhone with a mic that I had picked up from Amazon, and 3 takes later, I settled on the least terrible version. Finally, after years of thinking about it and months of heavy research mixed with procrastination, I hit publish. The relief was instant. The hardest part was behind me, and even 12 months later, I still believe that to be true. But something unexpected happened. The video started to take off. I got 150 views on my first day, 700 by the end of my third, 50 subscribers on my channel. I couldn't believe what was happening. But YouTube, of course, had other plans. The excitement quickly fizzled. Every follow-up video for months barely registered. Most videos struggled to get 100 views, and only a few more subscribers trickled in. I went from feeling like I overcame this giant fear and I'd cracked the YouTube algorithm to feeling like I was a one-hit wonder who just got lucky on day one. The roller coaster ride was on. I I'd been warned that this would take years to master, so I made a commitment, 2 videos per week, no matter what. I was still working my 9 to 5, and I kept that up for a good 4 months, posting twice weekly. I wish I could tell you that I'd found some secret system, but I'm just as sloppy and haphazard now as I was back then, only back then I had less time, so I was scrambling constantly. And here's the thing about not knowing the subject matter in your niche. When you're teaching how to grow on YouTube, but you have no subscribers yourself, you can't exactly make videos about how to get views or how to get monetized. So I talked about what I had. My fumbling experience learning the YouTube studio, stumbling through thumbnails and SEO. I made terrible videos about those topics and probably gave out a lot of really bad advice. But YouTube was like this entire world opening up to me. It was really excited, but it was also like getting covered by an avalanche on the bunny hill. 3 months in, I hit a wall, burnt out from endless editing sessions, falling behind on my posting schedule. I was in a bit of a panic mode, frustrated, desperate, coming up on a deadline with no script, no plan, no thumbnail, no title. I went to the roof and recorded my very first video, just speaking completely off the riff. And to my surprise, it actually performed quite well. I was afraid to post it initially because it was too raw, too vulnerable, and almost too self-serving. But I was pleasantly surprised when I saw so many people connecting with it. 1,000 views, 3,000 views, 6,000 views, and for a channel of my size, that was amazing. It was a breakthrough of a plateau that I'd been stuck on, and this one video helped propel me to almost 1,000 subscribers. The lesson that stuck with me ever since is that authenticity trumps polish every single time. But despite this breakthrough, I was still scrambling. Videos were thrown together at the last minute, recording secretly in my kitchen when my partner wasn't home because I was terrified that she'd hear me stumbling over my words for hours sounding like an idiot. But somehow I made it all work. Despite my insecurities, the channel was growing. A sliver of light began to emerge, a slight indication that growing on YouTube was actually possible. I invested in a YouTube coach to help my own progression. 4 months in, barely knowing what I was doing, she dropped a bombshell on me. She encouraged me to start my own coaching program. I thought she was crazy. Who am I to coach newer people when I myself am barely figuring things out? But I quietly added a Calendly link to my video descriptions and started mentioning it in my videos. This decision to act before I was ready really paid off. Within a week, I had my first client book a paid coaching sessions with me. A week later, another client booked. And then I made an even crazier decision. I'd been secretly sitting on an impulse for months, leaving my company of almost 20 years. I know, never quit your day job for YouTube until you hit certain financial milestones. This is the advice I would give, and I will still give to anyone who asks that question, but I'm terrible at following my own advice. It wasn't that I was unhappy with my old company. I loved working there, but something was missing. Purpose, fulfillment, desire. 7 years of intentional saving and living below my means meant that I had earned myself a bit of a financial cushion, 1 to 2 years if I needed it. At 44, with a mortgage and only a few other obligations, I felt like the risk was manageable. Coupled with the recent growth on my channel and my first few coaching clients, I felt empowered to take a chance and bet on myself. I put in my 2 weeks, and in my 5th month of doing YouTube, I was now full-time. The weight of this decision hit immediately. After nearly 2 decades of having a boss, I was suddenly responsible for everything. Success, failure, the hours I kept, the tasks I worked on, all of it was on me. What I didn't expect was how much money would mess with my head. For the first time in years, I was thinking about expenses like a broke college student. The guilt of putting this pressure on my partner was starting to crash down on me. Thankfully, I had her love and support, and oh yeah, her health insurance too. By the end of the year, I had picked up a few more clients. My single session offer evolved into a 90-day program, and by January, I had a half dozen clients, but I still couldn't see how this would become a full-time income. The clock was ticking. I had 12 to 18 months to figure this out. Otherwise, it would be back to the 9 to 5. The clock is still ticking. My videos became a mix of strategy, tutorials, and the more raw and real sharing my stumbling journey. iPhone tutorials, thumbnail tips, behind the scenes of how I record videos. but I found a bit of a sweet spot, the emotional side of YouTube. Turns out a lot of people need help pushing through self-doubt and the limiting beliefs that we pile on ourselves, something that I know all too well. In January, I launched a school community for my coaching clients. It was a place to network, ask questions, and support each other. And then I had an idea. Why not open it up to everyone? I started mentioning in my videos, and midlife YouTubers began to trickle in. Suddenly, I can start to feel the ground shift beneath me. I started to sense real interest in what I was doing, and I started to fall in love with this community. I could spend all day in there talking to people, answering questions, creating tutorials, just trying to be helpful. It became my greatest joy from this entire YouTube venture so far. These people from all over the world who show up for one another, it's incredible to see, and it's heartwarming to know that I had a hand in making that happen. The channel kept growing with scattered wins among the usual mediocre videos, still posting twice weekly, but now hosting calls in the community as well and getting more serious about my email list. Then came the milestone. By the end of January, I had joined the YouTube Partner Program, which was now exactly 6 months on YouTube. I was ecstatic, for exactly 3 days before I realized I had to keep going. Getting monetized doesn't mean you're instantly rich. My first few days earned me just a couple of bucks. The real gut punch, though, is the realization that the mountain you've been climbing doesn't stop at monetization. In fact, the true reward for getting monetized is seeing those much taller mountains that lay ahead of you beyond. The sprint was finally catching up with me. 6 months of twice weekly posting had me officially burnt out. I was dreading video creation, procrastinating, and then scrambling last minute, missing deadlines and beating myself up for the inconsistency. I'd spend the next 6 weeks in a lull, struggling to post, riddled with self-doubt, and unable to see a way forward. At my lowest, I stumbled upon another YouTuber named Dea and a video she made about a book called The Dip by Seth Godin. Reading this book and immersing myself in trying to help my clients single-handedly got me out of this rut. I got really clear about 2 things during that time. I needed a new goal now that I've reached monetization, and I needed a simpler way to get there. I told myself that if I could just make enough money from YouTube to cover all of my monthly expenses, then I could just hang out there indefinitely until I figured out how to make more money. This became my new mountain to climb. And the way I would get there would be to start each week with one simple question. Who can I help and what problem can I solve? It is all too easy to overcomplicate things, to try and do too much and to be terrible at all of it. Accepting that you can only do so much and simplifying your approach is the real key to consistency, and consistency is how you win on YouTube. And it was this approach that got me back into the right headspace. Over the next few months, things were slow going. I spotted a video from another channel about how much they made after being monetized for 90 days. This video at the time had 1.2 million views. By late April, I was 90 days monetized myself, and I decided to make my own version, perfect for a YouTube growth channel, or so I thought. My video took off and blew up. It became my best performer by miles, shooting me past 5,000 and now 6,000 subscribers and dramatically increasing my AdSense earnings. One video really can set things off. But here's the warning. Going viral is a double-edged sword. Views are great, don't get me wrong, but if the new viewers don't care about your other content, subscriber count becomes meaningless. And to some extent, this is happening right now on my channel. So consider yourself warned. As I approach 12 months, I'm busier than I've ever been, but in the best possible way. Being your own boss is terrifying. I'm constantly wonder if I'm doing enough or wasting my time on the wrong things. There's nobody there to tell you, and that's both liberating and paralyzing at the same time. But here's some great news. I've recently joined another mentorship program with others in the early stages of their YouTube business journey, and within just a few days of joining this group has challenged me yet again to take messy action and push beyond what I thought I was capable of. The nudge worked and resulted in me making enough sales to pay for the program I was just 2 weeks into. This wasn't just a financial breakthrough, but a shattering of a belief that I had about myself that I wasn't worth paying for. I never would have known the answer to this question had I not asked it to begin with. So what questions are you not asking because you're afraid of the answer? YouTube is nothing if not prolonged bouts of frustration interrupted by meaningful but sometimes short breakthroughs. These feel like genuine level ups, but you have to seek them out. And that often means failing many, many times before something good actually happens. So, how exactly have I changed? Well, most days I'm genuinely jumping out of bed to start the day. I've never had that in my corporate job. I have YouTube friends now. Many were clients who became like brothers and sisters. Even my old coach still puts up with me bugging her regularly. She's the best. I'm more physically active than I've been in the last 10 years of my life. I'm sleeping better. I'm reading more. I'm no longer scared to record myself, and I've become quite numb to the sound of my own voice, which is a good thing. But I do constantly worry that I'm not providing enough value or working hard enough on my videos. I am admittedly more stressed out than I was in my day job, but at least it's tied to building something unmistakably mine. I can't put into words how freeing it is to be building with your own two hands, even with the cloudiness of uncertainty looming overhead. Every day I'm at the mercy of the algorithm I still haven't figured out. Every day I could choose to sleep in and accomplish nothing, and that temptation does arise. But luckily, I've put myself in a situation where clients depend on me, and that motivates me to keep showing up. One word of caution though, in the spirit of transparency, I haven't been the best partner to my significant other. I know that I'm not fully present for her, and I know that this is affecting our shared happiness. I need to do better, because if I don't, this dream life that I'm trying to build for us will be lived alone. And that's an unbearable thought I refuse to explore. So if you're anything like me, prone to tunnel vision and obsession, make it a point to regularly step back. Remember who you're doing all of this for to begin with. It's hard to know what the future looks like, and I still can't imagine how I'll get back to a full-time income, but I'm hell-bent on learning. This is the longest I've ever stuck with anything I've ever tried in my life, and I refuse to quit now. If you're thinking about starting a channel, here's my advice. Figure out why you want to do YouTube. And once you know why, just start. YouTube is a learn-as-you-go kind of hobby or job, if you want to call it that. People appreciate the build with me approach. And if you want to learn a new skill and share it as you learn it, you can just follow my example. You will never be perfect. In fact, you are very much meant not to be. Those imperfections will be your endearing personality traits that your viewers will come to love. When you are no longer afraid of who you are, the right people will surround you. And if you're one of my community members and you've made it this far in the video, thanks for being here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to build alongside you. See you on the next call.